The proceedings of this meeting will be recorded and made available on the internet. And we can move on now to item 1.2 of our agenda, which is roll call. And I'll ask our clerk, Jesse Clark, to please call the roll.
Thank you. Mayor Lamshead, are you present?
I am present.
Deputy Mayor Armstrong?
Present.
Councillor Franzen?
Present.
Councillor Braybrook?
Present.
And Councillor Cadigan has sent his regrets. For staff, we have Donna Taggart, CAO Treasurer.
Present.
Steve Brockbank, Director of Emergency Services.
Present.
Eric Gay, Director of Building and Planning, CBO.
Present.
Adele Arbor, Planner.
Present.
Bianca Dragicevic, Deputy Clerk.
Present.
Derek Bertram, Planning Technician.
Present.
Rachel Stark, Economic Development and Communications Officer.
Present.
And Jesse Clark, Director of Corporate Services Clerk, is present.
Okay, thank you very much. We can move on to item 1.3 of our agenda, which is land acknowledgement and moment of reflection. We respectfully acknowledge that Trent Lakes and Peterborough County are located on the Treaty 20 Mississauga territory and the traditional territory of the Mississauga and Chippewa nations, collectively known as the Williams Treaty First Nation, which include Curve Lake, Hiawatha, Alderville, Scugog Island, Rama, Beausoleil, and Georgina Island First Nations. Trent Lakes respectfully acknowledges that the Williams Treaty First Nations are the stewards and caretakers of these lands and waters in perpetuity, and that they continue to maintain this responsibility to ensure their health and integrity for generations to come. We will now take a moment to reflect on these principles and our duties and responsibilities as members of council. Thank you. We will move on to item 2 of our agenda now, which is the approval of the agenda as circulated. I would entertain a motion for same. Councillor Braybrook for a mover, Deputy Mayor Armstrong for a seconder. Any conversation about the agenda as circulated? I'm seeing none. I will call for the vote. All in favor? That motion has carried. Now we can move on to item 3 of our agenda, which is disclosure of pecuniary interest. If any member of council has a pecuniary interest on an item on the agenda, please disclose it now or anytime during the meeting prior to discussing anything on the item that you have an interest in. I'm seeing no hands. We can move on to item 4 of our agenda, which is adoption of minutes. Item 4.1 is the regular council meeting from December 16th, and item 4.2 is the statutory public meeting from December 16th. Anyone be prepared to make a motion? Councillor Franzen for a mover? For both, okay. Do I have a seconder? Deputy Mayor Armstrong for a seconder. Any conversation about those minutes? I'm seeing none. I will call for the vote. All in favor? Motion has carried. Now we can move on to committees and boards. Item 5.1 is liaison reports for council boards and committees. Does anyone have any liaison reports? I'm seeing none. We can now move on to item 6 of our agenda, which is our statutory public meeting pursuant to the Planning Act. I would need a motion now to suspend our regular meeting and go into a public meeting. Councillor Braybrook for a mover. Councillor Franzen for a seconder. I will call for the vote. All in favor? That motion has carried. We are now in a statutory public meeting, and I will go over to Derek Bertram, our planning technician. You do have a preamble, I believe.
Yes, thank you. Through you, Mayor Lamshead, this is a public meeting under Section 34 of the Planning Act to consider an amendment to the municipality's comprehensive zoning bylaw B 2014-070. A notice of public meeting for today's applications containing the prescribed information was circulated to all landowners within a 120-meter radius of the subject lands at least 20 days prior to this meeting, and a sign was posted on the subject lands in accordance with the Planning Act. The notice was also mailed to all prescribed agencies, public bodies, and persons in accordance with the regulations. Anyone wanting to be notified of any decision from today's public meeting must either inform myself or the clerk, and a notice of passing will be mailed to them, setting out the method and manner in which appeals may be made to the Ontario Land Tribunal. If a person does not send in a written comment prior to the passing of the bylaw or make an oral submission at the public meeting, that person may not be entitled to appeal the decision.
Okay, thank you very much, Derek. Please go ahead and introduce our first file, please.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Lamshead and Council. The first item on today's agenda is a zoning bylaw amendment 2524 submitted by Michael Binkley on behalf of Margaret Binkley. The purpose of the zoning bylaw amendment is to fulfill a condition of provisional consent for files B1224 and B1324 for the creation of 2 residential lots on Lakehurst Circle Road. The property in which the proposed lots are being severed from is currently zoned rural under the municipality's comprehensive zoning bylaw. The proposed lots are undersized for the continuation of the rural zoning classification. Therefore, the municipality has requested as a condition of provisional consent that the proposed lots be rezoned to rural residential, which is more suitable for the size and frontage of the proposed lots. There is a planning report on today's agenda, which is in support of the rezoning. Comments from the municipality's Park and Recreation Department and the Kawartha Pine Ridge District School Board were received with no objection to the proposal. And that concludes the summary of zoning bylaw amendment 2524. And now turn the floor back over to you, Mayor Lamson, for Zoom public meeting.
Okay, thank you very much, Derek. Is there anyone in the gallery for or against this application? Please state your name for the record. If you have any comments, please come to the little podium. It's your time to speak.
Hi.
Julia.
It's Deanne Barnes. My mother, Hazel Barnes, owns the parcel of land adjacent, 187. She just wants to be abreast on the development of the lands, and there's no objection from us.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Okay, does anyone else in the gallery would like to speak for or against this application? Is there anyone online virtually that would like to speak?
I'm seeing no hands.
We are seeing no hands. Okay, anyone on council, any comments or questions regarding this file? No? Okay. I see no hands. I just had one comment about the unevaluated wetlands. I was reading in the new provincial planning statement that some of the unevaluated wetland stuff is not relevant to some planning applications. I don't know if you have a comment about that, or staff would.
Yes, through you, Mayor Lamson. So this application was made back in 2023. Earlier, when under the growth plan and the previous provincial policy statement that the wetlands needed to be evaluated through the natural heritage evaluation if they're within 120 meters.
Okay, thank you very much for that, Derek. I appreciate the information. Okay, no other questions. We can move on to item 6.2 of our agenda, which is our next file. And Derek Bertram, our planning technician, would you please introduce the file?
Thank you, through you, Mayor Lamson, members of council. The second item on today's agenda is zoning bylaw amendment 2525, submitted by owner Paulina Tully. The purpose of the zoning bylaw amendment is to fulfill a condition of provisional consent for files B11024 and B11124 for the creation of two residential lots on Fates Bay Road. The property in which the lots are being severed from is currently zoned rural under the municipality's comprehensive zoning bylaw, and the proposed lots are undersized for the continuation of the rural zoning classification, and therefore the municipality's requested as a condition of provisional consent that the proposed lots be rezoned to rural residential, which is being more suitable for the size and frontage of the lots. There's also a planning report on today's agenda, which is in support of the rezoning, and comments from the municipality's Parks and Recreation Department and Kawartha Pine Ridge District School Board were received with no objections to the proposal. And that concludes the summary of the zoning bylaw amendment 2525, and I turn the floor back over to you, Mayor Lamson.
Thank you very much, Derek. Okay, does anyone in the gallery for or against this application? I'm seeing no hands. Does anyone on council have any comments or questions regarding this application? I'm seeing no hands. Okay. We can move now to item 7 of our agenda, which is business arising from a statutory public meeting. So I would entertain a motion to reconvene our regular council meeting. Councilor Franzen for a mover, Councilor Brabert for a seconder. Now I'll call for any other conversation. I will call for the vote. All in favor? That motion has carried. We are now back in our regular meeting, and we can move on to item 7.1 of our agenda. And Derek Bertram, our planning technician, would you please speak to the file?
Of course, thank you, through you, Mayor Lamson again. There was a public meeting held for 2524. Municipal staff are recommending the following: that council receive the report from the planning technician and the planner for zoning bylaw amendment file 2524, and further that council support zoning bylaw amendment 2524, which staff have prepared a bylaw, which is on today's agenda for council's consideration.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone have any comments or questions? Councilor Franzen.
I support the recommendations from the staff.
Okay,
I'd like to move that we accept this.
okay. Do I have a seconder for that motion? See Councilor Brabert for a seconder. Any conversation? Seeing none, I just have one comment, is that it's nice to see that we're putting silt fencing around that, even though the property's fairly level. It mitigates any drainage off that's it can contaminate your neighbor or your other pieces of property. That might make you feel a little better about the application. And the cutting of trees and stuff is outside of the the migratory bird breed season, which I've never read that before in an application. So I think that's kind of important. So thank you very much. That was my comments, and I will call for the vote. All in favor? That motion has carried. We can move on now to item 7.2, and Derek Birch, our planning technician, would you please introduce this file or speak to the file?
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Lamb, and Council, once again, there was a public meeting held for file 2525, and municipal staff are recommending the following. That council received the report from the planning technician and the planner for zoning bylaw amendment file 2525, and further, the council support zoning bylaw amendment file 2525, in which staff have prepared a bylaw, which is on today's agenda for council's consideration.
Okay, thank you very much. Does anyone have any comments or questions for Derek? Seeing none, is anyone prepared to make a motion? Mayor Armstrong?
Thank you, Mayor Lundstedt. I'll make the motion that we receive the report and that we support zoning bylaw amendment 2525.
Okay, do I have a seconder for that motion? Councilor Braybrook for a seconder. Any further conversation or questions? Seeing none, I will call for the vote. All in favor? That motion has carried. Thank you very much, Derek. Now, we can move on to item 8 of our agenda, which is presentations. And item 8.1 is Paisley McDowell, lead from Rural Services Envision Consultants Limited. And I do believe our deputy mayor would like to do a little preamble for this.
I would. Thank you, Mayor Lundstedt. I just wanted to remind everyone that for 8 years, starting in 2016, municipality conducted discretionary sewage inspections every year. The target was for 300 properties. It was a very successful program, and it not only found about a 10% failure rate, which led to the either replacement or fixing of malfunctioning septic systems, or in many cases, it was a deterrent and people replaced them before we actually got there. We suspended that in 2024 because Peterborough Public Health discontinued that service. We took it in-house and simply didn't have the capacity to continue doing the discretionary inspections. And in 2025, we had other commitments, and again, we suspended that program. I've had conversations with the Building and Planning Department and our CAO about potential for restarting that, which we will discuss at our next budget meeting. But one of the options for restarting it would be to outsource that program. And for that reason, we've invited one of the leading outsource consulting groups to come and present, tell a little bit about what they do, so we can understand that more as an option.
Okay, thank you very much. And I do believe Eric Gay, our CBO, would like to speak as well.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. Paisley McDowell is here today representing Envision Consultants, who specialize in geotechnical, environmental, and ecological projects. Ms. McDowell is a graduate of the University of Guelph with a bachelor's degree in engineering. She's a professional engineer registered in the discipline of water resources engineering, and is here today to provide you with a discretionary septic inspection program could look like for the municipality of Trent Lakes. With your approval, Mr. Mayor, I will turn the floor over to Ms. McDowell.
Absolutely. Go ahead, Ms. McDowell, and welcome.
Thank you, everyone, for having me here. Of course, lots of introductions, but myself, Paisley McDowell. So I'm the team lead of our rural servicing group at Envision Consultants, so a private engineering consulting firm. Rural servicing is servicing rural properties, so septic is a major portion of that. Water would be kind of the minor component. So our team ultimately specializes in on-site septic systems. Personally, I have been administrating septic reinspection programs in partnership with municipalities for 10 years. So if we can, let's do, thank you. Should I be using this, or is someone gonna?
You can if you want, or I can do it.
Okay, perfect, thank you. Okay, so just a quick outline, of course, introductions here on the intent of why I'm here and what I'm going to be speaking to. But from my perspective, we're going to be speaking about some of the goals of a reinspection program, Envision's experience, myself and my team, defining an approach for Trent Lakes. So how do we foresee, or how we propose we could potentially implement this here? Some of the logistics of what that might look like and the costing structure, and then some past program outcomes, just to give some kind of stats behind some of the assumptions or predictions of how we would anticipate a program would be run, and some of the outcomes of the program, and then value for system owners. Okay, So I'm going to start with why a sewage system maintenance reinspection program matters. However, very much acknowledging that this council and past council at this township have, or at this municipality, have supported reinspection programs. They've been in place since 2016, so you're very much aware of the value of a program, and that was highlighted by Deputy Mayor. But I'll just kind of go through some of the high level information just so that we have that laid out here at the start of the presentation. So the main pillars that I view for septic reinspection programs are going to be to protect, safeguard, educate, and plan. So protection is going to be protecting those local lakes, rivers, groundwater features. Protection is, for me, really focused around the environmental impact. People understand that sewage systems can be potential contaminant or potential hazard to water resources. Lakes and rivers, being the connection to algae blooms, can become a problem, but also contamination of drinking water is a potential. So trying to protect those resources before those problems potentially exist and identify them ahead of time. Safeguarding. So in my view, safeguarding is about the public health component. So as much as surface water often gets connected to algae blooms, it can also be connected to drinking water. So we do know that residents will be pulling drinking water out of various surface water features throughout the community, and then groundwater, again, would be another potential source. Human health also comes to exposure to sewage systems. So throughout the decade of working on reinspection programs, I've seen many of cases where a sewage system is not in a good state of repair, and there's potentially public access to that location, or just the homeowners, their family, maybe it's a rental property. So kind of the imminent public health, that might be sewage on ground surface, that might be a tank that is potentially at risk for someone to fall inside of it. So then education. So both of those feed into how are we helping to ensure that we maybe find these potential cases, but also how do we try to prevent that? And so education, in my view, is the major way we do it. We, I think, can all understand there's not resources, nor is there necessarily desire to run programs all the time, to be kind of checking in and always trying to be hands-on with these homeowners. I think a better strategy and a long-term strategy is to educate homeowners and system owners so they understand that they have a septic system, how it operates, and then how best to maintain it, and how to look for their own signs and symptoms that there could potentially be problems. So the education, operation, and maintenance, and then the self-inspection knowledge. And that's my kind of ultimate goal. That's my hope of reinspection programs, is that people understand how to self-inspect. And then planning. So from a homeowner perspective, understanding if their system may be approaching end of life is their own kind of personal knowledge and their own financial planning. But from a municipality perspective, having a general understanding of how the systems are aging or how they're operating allows you to plan for things like how many permits are you expecting to come in the next 5 years, and how many potential inspections are you going to need. So with that baseline of the why inspection programs matter, we'll flip over to a little bit about my experience and kind of what my team can potentially bring, and ultimately how Envision can support Trent Lakes before we work through some of the more details of what that program would look like. So for Envision, our experience will be the first topic that I hit on. So we specialize in septic systems. As I've said before, I have worked about 10 years doing reinspection programs, and I've got team members who have worked 15 years, which is really from the initial introduction of sewage system reinspection programs. And then throughout those 10 and 15 years, we've worked with more than 15 municipalities on their reinspection programs. As we'll get to, there's two different types of programs, but mandatory programs happen every 5 years, which is the case for this municipality as well. So in some of these cases, myself and my colleagues have worked with municipalities for multiple iterations of their every 5-year mandatory program. And in other cases, they're discretionary programs where they may have occurred once and kind of included the whole municipality, and we administered that program. And then just noting here that through our current and past programs, we have had to deal with the obstacle of water access only properties. It can be an obstacle ultimately for municipalities to get to some of those properties. So we do have a boat that we have purchased with our company that we utilize for these programs, and we have protocols and the health and safety mechanisms in place to ensure that our staff can safely get to those properties and still complete equivalent inspections to land accessible properties. So then when we look at proven results, so the results are that we've completed more than 15,000 systems inspected over those 15 years, and that is just within the context of sewage system reinspection programs. Ultimately, our team specializes in sewage systems, so we have a lot wider experience on the design and construction, installation, and investigation side, but strictly within the reinspection program, it is 15,000 inspections that we've completed. We have a proven track record on completing the inspections, so I'll display some data in a few slides, but the proven track record is going to be about scheduling, attending the inspections, getting the reports pushed out to system owners, to our municipal partner, and then things like annual reports and presentations to council, ensuring that everyone is aware of the program, aware of how it is moving. There's always going to be lessons learned, but so the successes and the ways that we can improve the program. So kind of continuing to have that communication. And then actionable insights for owners and municipalities. So the immediate actionable insights is going to be at the time of the inspection. We do encourage homeowners to be present with our inspectors. We do have building code certified staff that are there completing the inspections, plus the entire team behind them of additionally certified and experienced staff. And then the next step of the actionable insights for our owners is going to be their specific report that they get following the inspection, which will kind of reinforce the information, or if they weren't able to be present, depending on the structure of the program, they get that information in writing. So then next I'm going to talk about the digital tools. So as you may imagine, 15 years ago, digital tools were not necessarily on top of mind, but very quickly we identified that completing a large-scale program without digital tools left a lot of inefficiencies and potential transcription problems and time being spent. So our team is prided on the fact that immediately, so by 2014, our team had implemented a strategy that set the basis for what we do now. There's definitely been changes and upgrades over time, but we are still completing all of our work digitally. So all of our staff will have tablets. That allows us to ensure that we have immediate information. It's cloud connected, so our inspectors can complete the inspection. They have a set standard set of questions they go through. It ensures consistency of the inspections. They have set answers that they can respond to that again ensures consistency of responses. And then they can take as many pictures as they feel necessary. And then all of that information is immediately provided to our office team. So if our inspector wanted to have a second opinion while they are still there at the inspection, we have access to that information at the time. And then we have continual access to that data. And then because it's all digital, we can immediately transfer that into the inspection reports that they get issued to homeowners following a second set of certified inspector reviewing that information. And the digital tools is exactly how we streamline data collection and review. So I'll move on to support team. So we, again, very much learned throughout these reinspection programs that communication and support is major factor of success or not success in these programs. And so communicating with homeowners, whether that is appropriate and tailored written communication, whether that's emails or letters that get sent out, and then communicating with people over the phone. So we have been consistent to ensure that we have a dedicated phone number on our team that is always in the hands of one of our team members to immediately pick up the phone anytime we get phone calls from, may it be a municipal partner or may it be a system owner. That also allows for things like rebooking. So we acknowledge that in order to get a program done, there has to be some guidelines, there has to be some kind of structure to the scheduling, and that doesn't always work for every system owner. And so having our team accessible by phone and email at any time allows system owners to reach out to us and ask to rebook an appointment. That's often a time that we can transfer some preliminary information about the system, potentially answer some questions before our inspector arrives, help them prepare for the inspection, and potentially provide resources. So sometimes they're looking for diagrams, or maybe they don't know where their system lids are. And so we can help provide verbal information, or potentially even if we have access to permits, or kind of direct them to the municipalities that they can get access to a potential permit to help them find their lids. So now we can move on to how Trent Lakes has been operating your programs. So building on your past foundations. So an established Peterborough Public Health program existed since 2016. Peterborough Public Health kind of completed or administered all of the sewage, the municipality, but specifically the reinspection program. When Peterborough Public Health divested, all of the municipalities were left in a place where decisions had to be made. And thank you, Deputy Mayor, for summarizing some of the discussions that happened here at this municipality. And so then Peterborough Public Health were conducting both mandatory and discretionary inspections. So just to recap on that, mandatory are code mandated inspections that need to happen every 5 years, whereas discretionary inspections are up to the discretion of council and the municipality to administer for all of the properties that exist. So Peterborough Public Health completed those, and the intended plan is that we will provide an option where we can help bridge that gap and kind of pick up where Peterborough Public Health left, and hopefully have a smooth transition. So what program delivery looks like for us, I'm just going to highlight what some of the logistics of the current program so that I can then present some of the changes that we're proposing for consideration. So the current program that was paused a few years ago was about 300 inspections per year. Speaking with some municipal staff, kind of understanding how many properties exist and how many may still need to be inspected. Completing 300 inspections a year equated to about 18 years to complete a reinspection program. So the average lifespan of a sewage system is about 30 years. And so when we view the functionality and the value of a program that takes 18 years to visit all the properties, there's potentially some missing information or some opportunity for systems to have existed for a long time, maybe have reached the end of their life, or a newer system, but system owners maybe don't have that opportunity to get that education and understanding. So with that in mind, plus some of the logistics that I'll get to, our proposed approach is that we're completing 600 inspections per year. So that is in line with what we typically operate for re-inspections. 600 will mean that the cycle length of the program would be more in a 7 to 8 year timeline. We are ultimately trying to balance resources and budget and time here. So condensing down the program while still respecting the reasonable capabilities and realistic goals of the program. So what we view as the benefits of condensing the program is that we're going to be getting that earlier detection. So whether that maybe system that's struggling is currently in place, or is a system that might start struggling in the next 8 years or so, or maybe it's going to be 10, and we might have an opportunity to see it before we get to that point and maybe have some preventative maintenance or lifespan extension. By condensing a program and increasing to 600 inspections per year, that is really optimizing the efficiency of the program. So 600 inspections is a realistic number of inspections that an inspector can do within a kind of seasonal window. So that's typically in and around the beginning of May until the end of August is the primary portion, but can extend into September or October as needed. Really no snow cover time window is what we're looking for. So by ensuring that we have 600 inspections per year, it means that we can have a dedicated inspector operate the program for the year. So you're going to have a consistent inspector that can be there, and we can ensure that the program can be stabilized and can continue to operate, because we know that we will have a person who returns every year and completes 600 inspections. which contributes to consistent compliance. In our proposed approach, how we always operate our programs is that we have 2 levels of review. So our initial inspector is the first level, they're a certified person, they complete the inspection, they document all of the information, including pictures, send it back to our office. Then we have a second qualified person who reviews that information before it is finalized, and those 2 parties will communicate with themselves plus the rest of the team as required. So in just kind of keeping the program condensed ensures that we have more consistent compliance between that team and themselves, but also with municipal partners and code changes. We just had a code change in 2025. So really an 18-year time frame is hard to predict and forecast what's going to happen 15 years into that program. And then cost savings with program efficiencies and stabilized costing. So as noted, the ability to dedicate an inspector and condense scheduling and keep this program within a more reasonable time frame. 7-8 is our ballpark what we're recommending here, but there's definitely wiggle room on what that can look like. But that ensures that we can have cost savings because we can gain those efficiencies, and then we can also stabilize the costing. I think everyone can appreciate that predicting and forecasting costs 18 years from now is a difficult position to be in. And so if we have a timeline that we can kind of reasonably predict, then we can ensure that we find a way to stabilize that costing for homeowners so that it doesn't make a big difference or any difference at all if they are in the first year of inspection or if they're in the last year of inspection. And we'll note that 600 inspections per year is what's flagged here. We have the ability to do more. Just to give you a number, we would estimate it's about 950 inspections per year if we wish to do it within 5 years. Thank you. So now we're going to look at the program flow. So this is intended to be a highlight or an overview of how really the program would be run, operated on a yearly basis. So we're upfront acknowledging that participation is essential, and early and clear communication builds the understanding and overall acceptance and compliance of the program. And that is hopefully seen throughout the program flow. It is absolutely a pillar that we continue on. And that quote that is there is from a system owner that we interacted with in 2025, and Claire was one of our office staff in 2025 to help support the program, and just the value that system owner found in communicating directly with our staff over the phone. So looking at the flow of the program, the pre-inspection phase is the initial communications, the early information sharing. So what that typically looks like is going to be program information letters. So we typically assemble, working with the municipal partner, relatively short. We always try to include, what information we feel is absolutely critical while not making it being over cumbersome. So a program information letter that will get provided to all of the system owners who are included in the program for that year. On that letter, it will describe how they can prepare for the inspection, how they can contact Envision if they were to have any questions, and then where they can access resources. So resources with our municipal partners, we typically assemble resources, whether that's tailored, a specific FAQ or notes for the specific program, or more general information about sewage systems. And we help that kind of get packaged up and typically posted on the municipal website so that it's easily accessible for system owners to get to. And then we would continue to provide that direct support. So email and phone would be the most common, but of course, we normally end up getting a few hard copy letters mailed to us in response to our letters, and we accept that as well. And so then we move on to the inspection. So the scope of the inspection is intended to match the Peterborough Public Health Program. There is a pretty kind of standard inspection process. The Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing issued a document, let's say almost 2 decades ago at this point, that outlined a kind of phase 1, phase 2 approach. That is the framework that Peterborough Public Health followed. That is also the framework that we have always consistently followed. So we do not intend for there to be any major changes in the logistics or the protocol of the actual inspection. And note there, what did exist in Peterborough Public Health and what we would continue to be seeking is that homeowners expose all system lids before the inspection. That is a health and safety concern for our team to be digging on an unknown property, but also the unknown of the time and the logistics of trying to find lids if those were not exposed already. And then highlighting again that everything will be digital data collection. And then the final point here under the inspection is that we are encouraging owners to be present at the time of the inspection. That is a point that we like to discuss with our municipal partners at the beginning of the program is, do you wish for homeowners or system owners to be present or not? We ultimately feel the value of education and direct communication is best provided when we're all standing there and looking at that system. But that does lead to a little bit more of scheduling logistics. So we are happy to work in either manner, whether homeowners are requested or encouraged versus mandated to be present or a representative for them. Either way, the system owner will receive written documentation of the observations that were made at the time of the inspection, and will have the accessibility to speak to our team if they have any questions. So then we'll transition down to post-inspection. So because of our digital data collection and the protocol that we put in place, we understand that having prompt reports to homeowners is important to them. And we agree with that. We also want to ensure that we have that second set of eyes that's reviewing the report. And so we found that what is a reasonable kind of answer to that is that properties get an inspection within, owners get the report within 2 weeks. So what that looks like for us is we complete a week of inspections, that next week starts, and we do that internal review of the week prior and we issue the reports. So they're normally out by mid to end of that week. So if you were a Friday, you're actually going to get your report in likely less than a week. If you were a Monday, you're going to be closer to that 2-week timeline. And then on the reports will be a summary of any of the observations that are there, any potential recommendations of maintenance, and then recommendations for corrective actions. So that is, of course, going to be one of the major features that people are looking for. So we do want to ensure that that's clear and outlined in the report. So how we view that is identifying what was observed and then outlining what would potentially bring them into code compliance or what are the recommended steps that they can take to work towards that solution. And then direct deficiency resolution with owners. So if people have any deficiency requests.
We're almost running out of time.
No problem. And then I'll just wrap this one up with the annual summary report for the municipalities. So if we can switch on to the cost. So the inspection cost for Peterborough Public Health was $325 per property. So we are not expecting to exceed that inspection fee. That is in line with what our existing inspection fees are for our current programs. But we are acknowledging that we are proposing to double the number of inspections per year, which would result in an approximate $195,000 per year to operate the program. Just highlighting some of the other kind of costing structures that are in here. So remedial action documentation. So if there were to be deficiencies identified and they can be resolved through paperwork. So maybe that's a submission of pump outs, pump out receipt, pictures of changes, receipts of something installed, then that would be resolved through pictures, receipts. Property owners can provide that to us. We would review that and resolve the outstanding deficiency, no additional fees. A phase 2 inspection would be an investigation or confirmation of systems. So I'll note that we see about 3% of properties are in this scenario. That is where there are more major deficiencies that cannot be resolved by some basic paper documentation. The expectation is that they potentially need to have more major repairs or potential replacement of components, but maybe they're seeking to investigate and confirm one way or the other. And that might mean that we need to go back out to that property to complete a second inspection. In that case, we are proposing an additional fee. That fee would be billed directly to that system owner, and we're proposing that to be around $250. And then the missed inspection fee. So the missed inspection fee we feel is an important part of the fee structure. It is only implemented in cases where a homeowner is unprepared and were therefore unable to complete the inspection. So the most common situation is going to be that system lids were not exposed. So in that case, we are required to rebook the inspection and remobilize. Ultimately, we feel the misinspection is encouragement for program participation. When misinspection fees don't exist in the program structure, the enforcement strategies often default down to orders to comply. So to mitigate kind of additional administrative penalties or encouragement, we feel like a misinspection fee is a reasonable and proven way to help with those outcomes. So I'm just going to flip to program outcomes. I'll try to go through this quickly. Just want to identify that in our systems inspected, we commonly find that 92% of systems can be inspected and resolved within their intended year, where about 6% get carried forward into a second year. So that's we reach back out, attempt to rebook, and we end up with 2% of systems that are maybe in a non-compliance situation where we have to work with our municipal partners on potentially orders to comply or kind of case-by-case decisions. So in terms of inspection outcomes, when we're looking at deficiencies, we find about 50% of properties have deficiencies. Deficiencies can run from anything as small as removing some saplings off of a leaching bed, getting a pump out, replacing a pump that may have burned out at the time, but can be more of a major item. We find that 43%, sorry, apologies. My colors are not coming up very well here, but we find 4% can be resolved through a permit. So that's meaning the system needs to have a component replacement or a full replacement. 43% can be resolved through documentation. So nothing else is needed. And we're down to our 3% that might be in that phase 2 scenario inspection that we spoke about. And then just to touch on the deficiencies resolved. So again, 50% of properties we don't normally see to have any sort of deficiency. Then 36% of properties typically readily resolve their deficiency once they receive their inspection report or after one reminder. So that does leave 14% of properties that have a deficiency that after one reminder are still outstanding. We're acknowledging that that doesn't mean that they haven't done their work. They just haven't necessarily corresponded back with us to confirm that it has been completed. And in that category would be systems that might need more work done. So they may need more time. And because the properties have been identified, we have open communication with that system owner and with the municipal staff to work towards a solution. And my last slide is just for value for system owner. I do feel like we've covered a lot of those topics. I'll just give a super high level. So environmental protection, support for early detection and lower long-term costs, on-site education, and then access to resources. I think I'll end it there then.
Okay, well, thank you very much for that great detail. Anyone on council have any comments or questions? Go ahead, Councilor Braber.
Thank you, through your mayor. Thanks very much for your presentation. Just a quick question as far as how much is this going to cost the municipality?
Yep.
I know you've mentioned per person or per household.
Yep. So the choice of potential cost recovery will be up to yourselves at council. The intended kind of proposal is that it maintains the $325 per property, and then how that is recovered, whether that is a direct fee or a municipal levy. So that $195,000 is representing what that annual cost would be to complete that approximately 600 inspections. The two additional costing structures that would be separate to that would be the 3% of property, estimated 3% that might need a phase 2 inspection, or the potential missed inspections if homeowners are unable to kind of prepare for their inspection. And it's proposed that both of those would be directed to that specific property owner. That's ultimately to keep the overall costs of the program down. So it is my understanding that the intention is to have it be a cost recovery program.
Deputy Mayor Armstrong, go ahead.
Thanks very much. Thanks very much, Paisley. One comment, 2 questions. The first comment is that working with PPH was very good in terms of the program, but we got very poor reporting back from them. So we had to actually do our own sort of data collection and reporting on it to see what trends we have. And also, it wasn't very helpful for a lot of cottage associations who wanted to deal with it in their own area as a community. The two questions, the first one is, of the 15 municipalities you've dealt with, how many spread the cost across the tax base versus applied the cost to the individual property owners where the inspection took place? I'll just do the second question and just some quick answers. And the second question is, have you been asked and do you do an environmental shoreline assessment as well as a septic system inspection for any of those municipalities?
Okay.
As
So
is done in Halliburton.
yes, thank you. So on the reporting item, we would be providing those
So
reports
that's okay.
to.
I'm fine with the report.
Perfect,
Just a
perfect.
question about where the cost
The costing.
is covered and whether or not you do a natural shoreline assessment.
Perfect. Okay, so in all of our programs and all of our experience, the costing has been recovered back through taxes or charged directly to the property.
But what's the split?
I would say mandatory programs commonly do tax levy. They're understanding that a mandatory program must run every 5 years, and that is potentially a little bit easier to kind of forecast and include within tax levies, where a discretionary program is typically more commonly invoiced out directly to that system owner after the inspection has been completed. However, I do currently have a program where it is discretionary only, and they are strictly following a municipal tax levy. And then the shoreline item, so we are aware of the Halliburton program where they're doing shoreline assessments. We do look at shoreline and we do collect some of that additional information, but it has not been a formalized part of a program. That doesn't mean that it couldn't be.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Seeing none. I think I had a question, but I wrote so much stuff down, I can't find it. Yeah, it was in the water inspections, like water yard, like water access only. I think that's crazy. You have your own ability to get there. So that's an asset, I think. So
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Any other comments or questions? I'm seeing none. I want to thank you very much, Bailey, for your report. And I would ask a motion from council to receive that report. I see Councillor Brabert for a mover, Councillor Franzen for a seconder. Any further conversation with Bailey? Seeing none, I will call for the vote. All in favor? That motion has carried. Thank you very much. That
Thank you
was
very much,
quite
everyone.
detailed. Greatly appreciated. Okay, we can now move on to item 9 of our agenda, which is communications. We have none. We can move on to item 10, which is staff reports. And 10.1 is public works. We have none. 10.2 is recreation and facilities. We have none. 10.3 is fire and emergency services. We have none. 10.4 is building and planning. We have none. And 10.5 is finance. 10.5.1, Donna Taggart, our CAO treasurer. Would you like to speak to this item, please?
Yes, thank you, and through you. So staff at the Buckhorn Regional Health Center have requested that $66,000 be transferred from the blood lab reserve for the continued work of the lab technician there. So as a reminder, funds in that reserve come through donations from the community. And after this transfer, the blood lab reserve will have a balance of $18,741. So today, staff are requesting that council receive the report and that they direct staff to transfer $6,000 from the Buckhorn Regional Health Center Blood Lab Reserve for the continued work of the lab technician. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Donna. Anyone have any comments or questions? Or is prepared to make a motion? Councillor Brabert, go ahead.
I'll make a motion to receive and also support staff's recommendation.
Okay, do I have a seconder for that motion? Deputy Mayor Armstrong for a seconder. Any further conversation? Councillor Trent, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just curious on how much money comes into that fund on a yearly basis on average. And I know every year would be different, but
Right. Thank you, and through you. So there are some funds that were received in 2025 that have not been transferred. They're part of the year-end audit. Typically, there's somewhere between 8,000 to 10,000 annually that's given for that, the continuation of the blood services there, but not guaranteed, of course.
Thank you. Thank you for your question. Any further questions? I'm seeing none. I will call for the vote. All in favor? That motion has carried. Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Taggart. Now we can move on to 10.6, which is administration, and 10.6.1. Rachel Stark, our Economic Development and Communications Officer. Would you like to speak to this item, please?
Thank you, and through you, Mayor. I'm presenting to Council today the results of a customer service survey that took place between November 24th and December 8th, 2025. The survey was conducted as a method of success measurement for the external communication strategy created in late 2023. A total of 119 individuals responded by the survey's closing date. Overall, feedback was highly positive for both customer service and communications, with 87% of respondents providing a good to excellent rating for interacting with municipal staff in 2025. When comparing the survey data to feedback in 2023 while developing the external communication strategy, results show communications and customer service have positively increased in the last 2 years. In addition to positive feedback, there were respondents that provided suggestions on how to further improve customer service and communications. Moving forward, staff will review these common themes of suggestions and develop actions to improve service delivery in these areas. Another customer service survey is planned for late 2027 as a continued measurement of success. The recommendation is for Council to receive this report for information. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rachel. Anyone have any comments or questions, or is prepared to make a motion? Councilor Brandt, go ahead.
I just have a comment or a question. I find wherever you go, they ask you to fill out a survey. You go to the grocery store, then on your receipt, they ask you to fill out a survey and you can win 1,000 points or 10,000 points. I just wonder if we're getting into a survey fatigue.
Thank you for that comment. I am fatigued of surveys myself, I must admit. I do quite a few of them. Any other comments or questions? Deputy Mayor Armstrong.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor Lambton. And I apologize if I missed it. I do not recall being notified that we were going to conduct this survey. So it probably was buried somewhere and I missed it. But I think it would be helpful to make sure that council is aware before we go out to public for any kind of input. So again, apologies if I missed it. It was probably buried somewhere, but I do suggest in the future that we be very clear and message council that we're going to be conducting these types of surveys.
Okay, thank you very much. That's a great idea. Make sure we're all on the right page here. Any other comments or questions? I just want to, everywhere I go, it seems now, I get a compliment of how much better this council and our staff are communicating with people. So thank you very much, Rachel, for all you're doing, and all of our staff. We're communicating much better with our ratepayers, and I think that's very important, and with staff and council. So thank you very much, Rachel. Greatly appreciated. Is anyone prepared to make a motion? Deputy Mayor Armstrong.
I'll make a motion to receive the report.
Do I have a seconder for that motion? Councillor Franson for a seconder. Any further conversation? Seeing none, I will call for the vote. All in favor? That motion has carried. Thank you very much, Rachel. Okay, we can move on now to item 10.6.2 of our agenda, which is Donna Taggart, our CAO Treasurer. Would you like to speak to this item, please?
Yes, thank you, and through you. So before you is a report regarding the Community Safety and Wellbeing Plan. So Trent Lakes jointly adopted this plan with the county and the city, along with the townships of Duro, Dummer, Havelock, Belmont, Methuen, North Kawartha, and Selwyn in July of 2022. So this plan was required under legislation, and now under different legislation, it is required to be updated prior to August of 2026. So since the adoption of the plan in 2022, there have been no official updates. It is staff's recommendation that council support the creation of a new joint plan between the county and 8 lower tiers. This new plan would be in keeping with the one passed in 2022 by the townships of Asphodel Norwood, Cavan Monaghan, and Autonomy South Monaghan, which I have attached to the report for information. As there are already joint initiatives between the county and lower tiers in areas of housing, healthcare, active transportation, and connectivity, having a partnership with this group makes more sense than with the city. So it's therefore staff's recommendation that council receive the report and that council direct staff to work with the county and other 7 lower tiers to transition over to a joint health, community health and safety well-being plan in keeping with one adopted in 2022 by Asphodel Norwood, Cavan Monaghan, and Autonomy South Monaghan. And further, that staff be directed to notify the city of this decision and also thank them for their work on the plan to date. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Donna Taggart. Anyone have any comments or questions for Donna? Thought Bianca was putting up her hand there. Go ahead, Deputy Mayor Armstrong.
I'll defer. Thanks for Lindsay. Thanks, Donna. I certainly support joining with the other townships and having a countywide plan. A couple other comments. First, I'm pleased to see we're separating from the city to do this because they clearly have some very different issues and larger issues than we do. And so we do need to look at this from a county perspective without them. My comments are, I'm a little bit skeptical as to what we're going to accomplish with this. And I guess I would plead with the county to be very clear on their objectives for any RFP that goes out. The report that was done was way too long. It had lots of platitudes in it. I think we all agree. We want to eliminate homelessness. I mean, these are motherhood and apple pie things that we all can agree on, but there was no clear plan, implementation plan. You know, there are lots of things that we want to do. It never specified who was going to do it. It never talked about what was going to be done. There were no measures of success. The plan that was done by the other couple of municipalities did in fact have indicators of success. So at least they thought through that, but they still did not identify who the organizations are that are going to accomplish these things. And without that, I think it's just a lot of words on paper. So I've become very skeptical of these very large reports. It's wonderful in documenting our current state. They did a terrific job on that. But it's useless unless there's some kind of true action plan associated with it, in addition to a report card on how we did in the last 3 years. So I think we just need to be very firm in terms of what our ask is of any consultant that we hire to work on this next round. So those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Armstrong. All great comments. I mean, if you don't know what you're changing or who's doing it, how do you have any success at all? So I do agree with your comments. Any other comments or questions? Councilor Braber, go ahead.
Thank you. Just a quick comment and building on Deputy Mayor Armstrong's comments. Is, I'm happy to see that we're making progress in sort of decoupling from a more of a high level global, you know, I know that's been my sort of rant, ongoing rant, is what's specific to Trent Lakes. And when I start reading all these reports and plans and whatnot, I look for how is this benefiting Trent Lakes and how is Trent Lakes being represented in these documents. And I understand that each of our municipalities, we have unique issues. And obviously the community safety wellbeing plan is a big part of the OPP action plan, detachment action plan. And each of the municipalities have specific issues and some don't. So for instance, Trent Lakes may have an issue that Selwyn does not. So I look for specifics and how we can help our municipality, Trent Lakes, and resulting from that could be a collective in a report about all the, you know, the proposed new format. So I'm happy to see that, but I agree with Deputy Mayor Armstrong's comments. Let's be specific. Like, it's just because you've been asked to do a plan, you know, doesn't mean that you have to have, you know, 300 pages of fluff, so to speak. Thank you.
I just want to comment on the beautiful sign that's behind you, Councilor Braber, that says Municipality of Trent Lakes. It's nice that we're all looking out for the Municipality of Trent Lakes.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that.
Your head was just blocking one word there.
Right. I appreciate the sign being there to bring more attention to my head. So.
Thank you very much. Any other comments or questions? Deputy Mayor Armstrong, go ahead.
Yes, I'd like, before we make a motion, I'd like to add something to this motion. And I don't know exactly how to phrase it, but I think I'd like to suggest that the municipality of Trent Lakes be provided the opportunity for either representation or input into the development and execution of the RFP for this plan.
I think you just said just about exactly how I think we
Oh,
would.
good. I hope somebody
Just
wrote it down.
see you scribbling at the very moment.
Excellent.
Did you get most of that? I think it's important that we have a bit of input into the.
Just
Donna, go ahead.
thank you and through you. So it's my understanding there won't necessarily be an RFP. I think that the group would look to mirror what has been done at the other municipalities that have been able to annually identify accomplishments. So it's my understanding that the plan would be to group together and create exactly what you're saying, look to create a plan individually in each area where we can connect and where we need to stay separate. But I don't believe the plan would be to put out an RFP for this because I think it would be a lot more money.
Yes, so thank you, Mary Lam said, thank you, Don. So just strike RFP, but have input or representation into the development of the plan.
For sure.
Maybe that.
Simple enough, but it gets the point across that we want to make sure there's some elements in there that are relevant to Trent Lakes because there's some that are only relevant to Trent Lakes. So, good. Okay. Anyone prepared that, make that motion with his revision?
Well, I'll make that
Deputy Mayor
motion.
Armstrong, go ahead.
Just that we receive the report, we direct staff to work with the county and the other 7 lower tier municipalities to transition over to a joint community safety and well-being plan, and that staff be directed to notify the city of Peterborough of their appreciation for their earlier work on this. And the last thing that I added, also be part of the motion, just you could read that, please.
And further, the council directs staff to provide council an opportunity for representation and input into the development of the community safety and wellbeing plan.
I don't know if it's a
Yeah,
direct
not
staff.
Council, yeah, we don't want
But
council
just-
representation. We just want representation. correct?
Yes, just leave it open that
Yeah, just
there be
representation.
representation in the
Which-
development and implementation of the plan.
Sorry, can I have clarification? What wording would you like changed?
And that the municipality of Trent Lakes be represented or have input to the development of its plan.
Okay with that.
Yeah, so
Well, you-
that would be likely through the CAO group
Yeah, I would
because that's
assume, yeah.
the representatives looking after this.
And
this-
you meet regularly anyway, so it'd be nice just to make sure that we have that in a resolution that we want to make sure that we do have you or someone representing. So I think that's the Trent Lakes. Yeah, I think that's fairly simple. We just make sure we have representation on that, working through that plan. So any other comments or questions about the motion?
I'll second that.
You'll second the motion? Okay, thank you.
I do have a comment.
Sure, go ahead, Mr. President.
Food insecurity and homelessness is a monumental issue that goes way beyond the scope of lower tier or even upper tier municipalities. It needs huge buy-in by the provincial and federal government.
You're absolutely correct. Okay. Any other comments or conversation? I'm seeing none. I will call for the vote. All in favor? That motion has carried. Thank you very much for that, Councillor or Deputy Mayor Armstrong. Now we can move on to item 10 point. Thank you, Donna Taggart, our Treasurer, CEO. 10.7 is just corporate services. We have none. Any item 11 is just notices of motion. We have none at this time. And item 12, we can go on for its correspondence for information. Item 12.1 is the Cavendish Community Policing Committee minutes from December the 1st. Would anyone like to speak to that item or is prepared to make a motion? Councillor Franz.
Motion to receive.
Okay, do I have a seconder for that motion? Deputy Mayor Armstrong for a seconder. I will call for the vote. All in favor? Marlis, we can hear an echo back there. Okay, that's better. Thank you. Okay, we can move on to item 13 of our agenda, which is correspondence for action. Would anyone like to speak to any one of these items, or we can proceed or do whatever we'd like one at a time?
I'd like to make a motion to receive all items.
Okay, and Deputy Mayor Armstrong for a seconder. Any further conversation? Seeing no hands, I will call for the vote. All in favor? That motion has carried. Okay, we can now move on to item 14 of our agenda, which is bylaws. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bylaws on our agenda. I don't know if anyone would like to speak to any one of them, or we could approve them all at the same time. It's entirely up to the discretion of council.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve all 5.
All 5.
Do I have a seconder for that motion? Councillor Brayber for a seconder. Any further conversation? Seeing none, I will call for the vote. All in favor? That motion has carried. We have approved them 2 zoning bylaw amendments and other 3 items. Okay, we can now move on to item 15 of our agenda, which is announcement. Does anyone have any announcements to make? Seeing no hands. Thank you very much for that. We can now move on to item 16, which is our closed meeting. And I would entertain a motion to leave our part of the meeting and go into closed. Councillor Braybrook for a mover, Councillor Franzen for a seconder. I will call for the vote. Oh, I better say why we're going in there first. We are going into the closed meeting under the authority of the Ontario Municipal Act, Section 239(2), to discuss B, personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees, CAO recruitment identifiable individuals, and D, labor relations or employee negotiations, CAO recruitment as identifiable individuals. So that is why we are going into close, and I will call for the vote. All in favor? That motion is carried. I would now move on to item 16.2 of the agenda, which is rise from our closed meeting. Entertain a motion to rise. Councillor Franzen for a mover, Councillor Brayber for a seconder. I will call for the vote. All in favor? That motion is carried. We are back in our regular meeting. Now we can move on to item 17, which is business arising from our closed meeting. Item 17.1 is the adoption of the minutes from our December 16th meeting. Would entertain a motion to adopt. Deputy Mayor Armstrong for a mover, Councillor Brayber for a seconder. I will call for the vote. All in favor? That motion has carried. And we can move on to item 18 of our agenda, which is the adoption of the confirming bylaw. Item 18.1 is the confirming bylaw. Councillor Brayber for a mover, Councillor Franzen for a seconder. I will call for the vote. All in favor? That motion has carried. And now we can move on to item 19 of our agenda, which is adjournment. Councillor Brayber for a mover, Councillor Franzen for a seconder. I will call for the vote. All in favor? That motion has carried. We are adjourned. Thank you very much, staff. Thank you very much, council, and thank you very much for everyone who attended virtually and physically in our gallery.